Namaste and welcome to the Healing Mirror podcast. My name is Saraswati, and here I'm offering discussions, global satsangs and interviews with spiritual teachers, philanthropists and awakened and inspirational humans. I'm just going back to that feeling of looking for something and it's right in front of us. As Sarah didn't see the password and it was right at the top. But this is a beautiful reminder to us that what we're looking for is already here. Always already here. And for many of us, and you know, so many people that we know, they're searching. They're on a path to find happiness. They're on a path to find freedom. They're seeking as the seeker without realizing that that very happiness, that very freedom, that very sense of being without an object is always here. But it's so simple and always present that we miss it. You know, in that little meditation, that instruction of become aware of that sense of aliveness or being that was there when you were born, as far back as you can remember in your childhood. There was the same sense of being. It doesn't age. It doesn't change throughout life. It is the unchangeable aspect that is ever present and always available. And when we tune into that sense of being without an identification as anything separate, it expands out, doesn't it, beyond the physical barrier of the skin. We can feel that sense of being expanding out and out and out. It's limitless, it's boundless, it's vital, it's alive, it's awake. I remember that feeling of searching and wanting to hold, you know, that sense of peace and happiness and freedom. And when that finally snapped and became, you know, became clear, it's like I think there's a poem that just reminds me, you know, you can turn your head to the sky and laugh. It is the great cosmic joke that it's always here. It's ever present. It's ever available. Yet we identify the self with the body. We identify the self with the thoughts and the thinking mind. I am thinking. We identify with all the patterns, beliefs, and habits that we've taken on through the journey of this physical body and this mental, conceptualized mind. And this is what we are taught through our society, through our parents, through our teachers. This is what we're taught, I am. So that we never actually truly question that until something wakes up inside, until a deep desire wakes up inside to be free and to seek to find that freedom. And I remember that realization very clearly, that flipped experiences which I'd had during this lifetime of awakening and being awake, to realizing that we're always awake. We just don't see it. We just don't realize it. And for me, and this may be helpful for you, the turning point was, even though I realized I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am the presence, still there was a pattern of, I want to be enlightened, I want nirvana, I want freedom. And without really cognizing it deeply, the I that wanted that was the separate I, was the separate self, was the body-mind identified self that wanted that, or the ego self that wanted that. There are so many words and ways to say this. But it was only when I went, oh my goodness, the separate self can never be enlightened, can never be free. It was born as a body-mind and it will live as a body-mind. But the body-mind is the persona, which is the mask. Persona comes from that ancient word that means mask. It is the mask. This is the mask that we wear. And only when absolute identification with the persona, the mask, the personality, the separate personality is dropped, do we realize that we're always awake, that the divine radio is always playing, that there's nothing to do to change that, to make that better. It cannot get any better. That it is love itself. And when that mask is dropped, and that mask contains all forms of judgment, all the patterns that have kept us identified with that separate self, that separate mask. When the mask falls away and the veil of illusion is dropped, there is and only can be the experience of peace and love. The body may still have pain. The mind will still continue to function, but we're no longer identified with that. We know that we are not that mask. Hi, Anne. Nice you can join us.
Thank you.
I'll just mute you now. I've got this little mosquito here that's keeping me very aware. I remember there's a saying, I think, if you want to know how enlightened you are, put yourself in a room with a mosquito or go and visit your parents for a week. I'll just mute you, Anne. So that's what I had to share tonight. I'll hand over to you guys now, and if you have a question, you can put your hand up in the chat area or just pop your hand up in that way. I never quite know what I'm going to share, but that's what came out tonight, prompted by Sarah not seeing love. So thank you, Sarah.
I guess I might, I've had a few questions in my head, but I might go from what you spoke about, talking about when we're sort of thinking, I, want to move towards enlightenment, or as in a human. What are your thoughts on, for example, whenever I do a meditation, or when I'm just moving through my life, I guess, I will often say, may this meditation, may what my thoughts, my speech, my heart, my actions be all based on the highest good for all sentient beings. Is that an egoistic form of thinking, acting, when we are a spiritual being having a human experience? And yeah, so maybe your thoughts on that?
Well, we have to remember the great okayness, that everything is okay, and that we are, in this, we are having a human experience, and there's no doubt about it. This body is real in this world of duality. We can't deny that, and we can't deny, the journey of the physical body as well. It's just that journey can be one of deep and complete love if I'm not identified as a separate self, but I keep that identification as the I am presence. Having said that, we have to be very practical. We still, need to feed the body and clean the body, and we live through life, and we have our relationships, etc., etc. There's nothing wrong with anything. And while we have a physicality, while we have the access of mind expressed through, the hardware of the brain, there is always a possibility of falling back asleep. There is always a possibility of the separate self taking over. So until we are completely and utterly living in the highest, point of samadhi, which I don't think anyone in this room is not dipping in and out. That's why we're here, to maintain clarity and to support each other with that clarity. And while we're doing that, it is good to be vigilant and to be consciously aware of falling back into old patterns, which I notice for most people happen in old relationships, often that they had prior to having a committed, an awakening, and then a commitment to living awakeness, or with family, because there's old, deeply entrenched patterns, perhaps with siblings or parents or aunts or uncles or partners from the past, or someone that we've had a history with, who has often placed us in a compartment, because unfortunately the separate self tends to compartmentalize areas of life, but also people as well. And depending on how fixed the mind is in its patterns, then and if someone is very much identified with the separate body mind or the ego self, and they've compartmentalized people and put them in boxes, then they're not actually going to be present with you or see you as you are in that moment. So they will be responding from past. So,
yeah, no, that was good. Thank you.
we listen and we feel and we notice what our body's physiology is telling us, and we'll respond intelligently to that. But we really do need to be very careful of indulging in emotions.
Just one little follow on from that. You talk about be careful about not indulging in emotions. Sometimes as a human, you think, sometimes you do get that feeling of, oh, again, I'm being hit in the face again. I'm like seemingly, yeah, what seems like a negative experience. But I guess you also need to trust, don't you, that, you know, what does it say it's something in the Bible, doesn't it say about you will only be given as much as you can handle, like just keep trusting. And often sometimes what seems to be the worst storms is again, you can almost, you know, be joyous and give thanks that you're really moving somewhere. But sometimes you do, you know, because another thing happened to me the other day and I just sort of like, oh, you know, and I just had tears, but I thought that's normal, just let it out, you know. But to hang on to that, this is all perfect. Sometimes it is a test or a testing. Yeah.
So something that you said there, Kathy, I caught it as you were saying it. Whenever we find ourselves reacting very strongly to happenings, whatever that happening might be, it is always the separate self that's reacting. Because presence is simply, I am here, I am observing, this is the ripple that's moving through. When we find ourselves having an emotional reaction, that's always an opportunity to know thyself. Know that this is not from the I am, but it's from patterns from the past. So whatever that emotional response is igniting, as much as possible, be aware of that. Allow that emotion to come through. Take care not to indulge in it. But if possible, with clear awareness, you will, and that seeking to know and to understand, you will be able to see through a pattern there. And one very, very common pattern, which most of us hold, and you know, is released if and when we're ready and when we see through it, is the pattern of wanting to please people, wanting to be accepted, that need to feel loved. And that in itself can lead us into people pleasing activity, which is always again taking us away from the I am presence. Because when we're simply being, which is we are just completely here, completely natural. We're not trying to please anyone. We're not trying to be anything particular. It's a very natural feeling. It's very effortless. And the energy is free, and we feel open, we feel clear, we feel present. As soon as an emotion rises wherever we feel that in our body, and that can often help us to understand it as well, we know that there's a pattern there that's been ignited, a pattern that's been reactivated, and that's playing out with emotion behind it. And you know, that can be anything, because ultimately in the complete and utter experience of freedom and peace and beingness, everything is accepted. Life is accepted. Death is accepted fully. You know, whatever comes and goes is accepted, and you know, there's no ripples on the surface. It's our patterns and our reactivity to life that creates the patterns of disturbance within the pure, clear surface of the pond. If that is helpful as well, Kathy. But we can really, I know here, you know, when I was doing a lot of seeing through of old patterns, whenever the emotional gauge was ignited, I knew there was a pattern that was calling for me to see through that pattern and to disentangle my awareness and identification from that.
So am I right in thinking then that basically, yeah, which I, you know, as I said, I've been hit with quite a few things that are seemingly negative, but what we're talking about is that everything is positive. And if I see something as negative, it's just a pattern. Like,
yes and no. I'm going to mute you again because we get funny noise. Yes and no, Kathy, because some things are just shit. You know, I'm very real. I'm not pretending here. And they're tough. And they're tough, you know. For instance, if you're experiencing a lot of pain in the body, and that pain is not abating, then that's going to be tough. So we can't say it, you know, it may be that we can say it's all perfect, but we could in more reality go, you know, the I am presence is peaceful, but the body's in pain. You know, the body's going through some suffering at the moment, and that's okay, but it's not pleasant. You know, or I can see that this situation, you know, there could be a social situation is really poking me, and the juice that's coming out is showing me a pattern that's not pleasant, but I'm going to have to own that pattern and then disown that pattern, so to speak. You know, see that pattern and then see through that pattern. See that that is simply a patterned reactive behavior that I may have to being judged or whatever. And then let that go if I want to experience peace again. But that experience may not be all feeling perfect and pleasant. It may be very unpleasant, and there may be some rocky waves more than ripples at that time. But if we want to go back to a place of peace, it's very important, though, we don't suppress, because it's very easy to suppress something or ignore something and push it down or make the other person wrong. Well, they're just not very loving. You know, I'm fine. But remember that they are you. You are that person as well. That you are dealing with yourself with a million faces. So everything we're dealing with another person, if we can work on releasing that pattern, we're not only releasing here, we're releasing there. If we can do that with love, you know, and when we have this true desire to live as awakeness, then that can only be loving, because if it's not loving, then we're not coming from the sense of being. We're not coming from that sense of being is born of love. You know, it is the unifying force. It is the one love. It's not the individual separate loves. It's the one love. And, you know, in some languages, we have so many different words for love, don't we? We have this sort of love and that sort of love, and puppy love and baby love and boyfriend love and passionate love. But actually, the foundation of love is absolute and utter acceptance and the ability to honor in the most heartfelt way. And then compassion is just there. It's not something we ever have to practice. Loving kindness is not something we have to practice, because that's just the way we are when we're living as awakeness. Of course, loving kindness is just natural. What we're getting back to is our true nature, because our true nature is love. We're not trying to be anything but the true nature of beingness, and that is love itself. So the only going away from that was developing the belief that we're a separate body mind and it's my life and I've got to achieve something, and to achieve something I've got to be this and I've got to be that and I've got to be this to that person and that to this person, and so on and so on. And then, of course, through experience within the duality, the patterns are laid down over this separate body and within this separate body mind to complicate things even more. But really, the truth is so profoundly simple. And life is just as it is. It just becomes more simple. More and more simple, actually. There's nothing too elaborate about it, living as awakeness. It's very simple, very uncomplicated. Does that help, Kathy?
Yeah, yes, definitely does. It all resounds, but you know, just when you're saying really life is very simple, I think I'm going to have a few tears at the moment. But as I say, like when you just I'm choosing to trust. But like, I'll give some examples. Like November, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I've been dealing with that. December, I lost my job very unexpectedly, full-time employment after 23 years, totally unexpected. I've then had another emergency operation that I had to go into hospital for. I've experienced losing a friendship with a really good friend. And now I'm finding that I might be losing my house because of another situation, and that's all been since November, and I believe I've dealt with it really well. But I also understand the importance of not ignoring those emotions. Like I've been shocked, I've been upset, I've been angry, I've let the tears flow, but I just sort of keep saying to the universe, I keep saying thank you. I keep saying there must be something here. But sometimes, like just when you said life is meant to be simple, I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can. But sometimes you feel like you're getting hit in the face. Like, you just get through one thing. And I was about to start studying to upgrade my qualifications to move back into another profession, and that's sort of, I've got to put that on hold because of other things that have come up, and I just sort of, but I'm still every day getting up and believing that everything is perfect. Even, and I've been experiencing the emotions as well, but I don't want to be enveloped by those emotions, if that makes sense. But yeah, I feel like I've been a bit fish-whacked at the moment. Like, okay, I hurt you on one side and now we're going to hit you on the other side, Kathy, and you're not quite on the ground yet, so we're going to stomp on you just a bit more. That's like, oh. Anyway, sorry about that, folks. Yeah.
No, don't be sorry. That's absolutely fine, Kathy. Sounds like the universe is asking you to stop. And sometimes that's a very powerful thing to do. You know, obviously you had a health crisis, then your job went. Well, that's a lovely, thank you very much. Now I can just focus on my health and stop. Because another thing that very often many of us do is, when we're confused, is we make ourselves very busy and we become human doings instead of human beings. And it's very important to be able to pause, just as for health, breath is very important, and correct breathing is very important. And a breath can give us a pause, can't it? You know, you take life in and allow everything to relax on the out breath. And sometimes that out breath, that pause, that letting go can be a profound time in our lives where, in that letting go and relaxing in to being, other things are let go of as well. It's like the tension in the muscles is released. But with that, if we can expand that out, with that release, there may be a letting go of people in your life that are no longer there, need to be there at this time. There might be a letting go of a dwelling or an attachment to anything material or work, or any sense of identification with yourself as a vocation, or even as a place of residence. So it feels to me like your life at the moment is doing a big out breath. And if in that letting go, with that out breath, you can relax. And, you know, at times like this is when some forms of therapy or personal practice can be more helpful. Definitely. And, you know, I won't go into that now because I work as a therapist as well, and this is not a therapy session, but but be kind to yourself. But remember, you're in an out breath, which is a letting go time, a real letting go time. And the more you can let go and drop into that sense of being, and drop into non-identification, the freer that you will feel, and trusting that those things that are taken away for you without even any effort were meant to be. And I know that's a big trust. And that's not to say there won't be some grieving there. You know I've lost very close and dearly loved ones from my life. And at the time, you know, that seemed like the worst possible thing. But time is a wonderful healer as well, time and trust. And continue to drop into presence over and over again, keep coming back to the moment when the mind wants to take you off on some form of judgment or some form of retribution or feeling that something is wrong. You know, keep coming back to the present moment. Keep bringing all your energy and awareness into the now, because we can only ever be awake right now in this moment. We can't be awake tomorrow, or, you know, this is the only moment of existence. And time has been created so that our little brains can comprehend the enormity of life. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for sharing and being brave, and it's lovely to have you here.
If I can just make one quick comment, that is, everything you've said I resonate with, and as I said, I've been very learning the art of trust, and I actually have let go, and I am doing therapy as well. So thank you for all those things. But you know, I really did learn the art of letting go, forget all those I should, I would, or you know. And it's actually only been in the last few months that I've sort of been motivated to go in directions. But it's, and you're right, you know, and I trust that. Because a lot of my meditations last year was that I want to be on the best path for the highest good of all sentient beings. I want to be on the best path. So guess what? Ask and you will receive. So I just sort of think, how, you know, yeah. But so I'm continuing to trust, but you just sort of think, yeah, that idea of breath is good. You sort of, you just think that things are going smooth, and then suddenly I'm being hit again. And that's why I think that sometimes it's a pattern that it's not necessarily, especially if you want to be on the best path and you're trusting, then, you know, maybe it is something where I'm learning about letting go of materialistic things, or learning about trust in the universe, or being confident that this is all okay when other friends are saying, you should have got a job by now, you should have done this, you should have done that, you know. No, it doesn't feel right. And yeah, and I am going a lot with my feelings as well. So I have taken up almost the whole time, and I hope people have benefited just as much as I have. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kathy. But remember, there is no path to presence. Presence is always and ever here, right now. So, you know, the idea of a path was once upon a time. All paths end in non-duality. And in our philosophy here, we come to understand that there is no path to freedom. Freedom is. And presence is. And the I am presence is here right now, always. Okay, I am going to pass over to the wonderful Terry. Where are you, Terry?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Well, just looking at an overview of what's been said tonight, I think we have to be careful that we don't try to develop strategies for dealing with situations, problems, because any strategy involves looking ahead, trying to project into the future, whereas the only way through any situation is through. Which means, from the human mind-body point of view, it means being willing to have all the feelings involved, being willing to have things exactly the way they are, because that is the doorway through the experience. And hard as it may seem or look from where your viewpoint is, that's the hard truth, that the only way through is through. There's no, everything else is avoidance. of the situation. And we can, again, develop strategies of how to get in touch with our feelings, how to be more sensitive, how to see things more clearly, how to be more relaxed, how to, but those are all, again, really beating about the bush, because the only way is through. And the safest place to be on this planet is right here, right now, because this is the place where everything is just as it is, and traveling through is having no resistance. And we may think we've been dealt a raw hand or whatever, but essentially this is all that's happening as far as we're concerned, and this is all we have to deal with. But if we add to that what should be, or what could be, or what used to be, or what we want is actually not going through this, and this is all we're being asked to go through. It's very simple. Again, Kathy, you probably don't see the simplicity, but the simplicity is in the moment. And it's a place of insecurity as far as the mind's concerned, because we are not able to make plans if we're living like this, because we're in a place where you don't need to make plans. The plans are being made for you. And all we're being asked to do is see things as they are, move through things as they are. And time, again, is the way that we see eternity from this human viewpoint, because it's the natural mechanics of the mind to use memory and projection all the time, and that's as it should be, it's the only way it can be. It's the only way we can actually function in this world. But I do feel that there's a tendency for evolution at the moment towards a slowing down of those whirring cogs of repetition, which is reaction to a stimulus based upon past experience, reaction based upon past experience, and repetition that comes from that. And when those cogs start to slow down, it allows the thinking to actually pass through without being processed constantly. This may seem a bit complex to you, but it's the way I see things. For example, in terms of time, 100 years ago, I was fine. Looking ahead, 30 years on from now, probably, I'll be fine. What's wrong with me now? Why do I have problems now? It's only because of the mechanics of perception which are necessary in order to experience this universe, which is actually a dream, but it's the only reality we have. It's as real as it gets, you see. It's not real, but it's as real as it gets, because it's one consciousness experiencing the same dream through many different points of view or human aspects. And it's all incredibly brilliant, and it's the time to really enjoy life while we can. Really, this is our opportunity. Why waste it? How does worrying help? How does trying to trying to solve problems help? How can we set a path through that's already being opened up for us constantly? All we have to do is be with whatever is happening. Simple. It's very simple. But what we add to that creates the complexity and the suffering of repetition. I hope that's got some clarity in it.
That was great, Terry. Thank you. So it's really, when I was saying before that life is very simple, Terry's just expressed it perfectly. Life is very simple. All we need to do is to be 100% present to life unfolding in each moment by moment without resistance. It sounds simple. It's our patterns of behavior, the patterns that have been laid down since conception or prior, that get in the way. But just imagine if we could be 100% present and available to each unfolding moment as it is without resistance. Because it's resistance to presence that creates chaos. And that was something after my 17-year-old son died. That came because my grieving was very natural, but it was very, it was strong, it was powerful, it was all-consuming for a short time. And then clear as day, that came into my mind. Resistance to presence creates chaos. And I saw the chaos of my own grieving, which was the resistance to what is, which was my son was dead. And that might sound really hard, but once I could accept that absolutely without resistance, there was freedom. And when that occurred, I thought, if I can accept that, I can accept anything. If I can accept death and the ending to something that has been so precious and so loved, I can accept anything. And when we can accept anything, then there's no resistance to what is. And then there's no chaos and there's no struggle. There's just an unfolding of life and presence to each moment, meeting the moment as aliveness, as awakeness, as love. So that brings us to the end of another satsang. Giving you all a big virtual hug and so much love. We'll see you again next week, perhaps. Namaste. Join me for upcoming podcasts. And please, if you found this helpful or you'd like to share a comment or perhaps your own experience, I'd love for you to leave that message down below this podcast. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I'm sure we can all help each other to hold hands, to remain awake, present, clear, and loving. Namaste.